A great scene here inside the ring. Jake, congratulations on a great win. Was that tougher than you expected it to be?
Cleveland, what's good?
What are you anyway? A wise guy?
Dangerfield, Dangerfield.
All right there. Well, I got up at the crack of dawn. I finally worked out the time differences and watched the Paul Tyron Woodley fight. Now, if you're after a professional, experienced, expert breakdown of this fight, you've come to the wrong place. But what a spectacle it was. What a spectacle it was. Jake Paul's personality is really interesting. He's got the classic psychological mixture of very, very low self-esteem, but an absolutely ginormous ego. This has driven his life. Jake Paul's life is not about succeeding. You've seen this since he started his Disney thing, his YouTube thing, his precocious, unpleasant pranks thing. But it's not about succeeding. That's not what drives Jake Paul. It's about not failing. Because when you succeed in life, when you succeed at the kind of things he's taken on, unless, credit where credit's due, he's taken on big things. He's taken on the world in his mind and done it. He's a YouTube social media zillionaire. But when he succeeds at something, it feeds his ego. And the ego needs feeding, and the ego is never satisfied. It's a hungry ghost. It just needs. And if it takes a knock, if it doesn't get fed, if a pin is pushed in that big inflated ego, the low self-esteem moves forward. And that is devastating to that character type. Absolutely devastating. Because when your ego takes on the world and loses, you lose the world. Your world is lost. So for him to get into the fight game has been a really interesting journey. He took on a couple of nobodies, which is a weird thing to say because in the fight game, Jake Paul is a nobody. But I can guarantee you, in training, he would have worked just as much, if not more, than a pro. Because he cannot afford to lose. The pain would be too much. And in that personality type, in that low self-esteem, massive ego, you're always aware of that. It follows you like a ghost. It's always hanging around. It's always there. It's the fear of loss that drives him, not the need to achieve. And that's why nothing will fulfill him. That's why he succeeded with this, he succeeded with that, he succeeded with this and that and that and that and that. And now it's boxing. And that really rises, that the stakes go up a hell of a lot in that game. Because not only do you lose, but you hit the canvas. You get knocked out, you get hurt. And so this was, from the outset, this was fascinating for me. Jake Woodley turned up. I mean, even at the weigh-in, the bloke was ripped. This man has proven himself. This man has proven himself in MMA. Now, yeah, MMA isn't boxing, but he's proven himself on the big stage. He's proven himself with audiences. Jake Paul's had, 4 other fights? And he's won them all, but never in front of a crowd. And this one, and this really demonstrates that ego issue. This one was back in their hometown, in front of his home fans. In front of his people. I mean, you can't, in terms of ego, the stakes can't be much higher for him. If he loses, he gets hurt physically. He gets hurt mentally. He gets hurt in terms of his ego and his pride, and his low self-esteem would devastate him. Now, Jake, if you don't know, maybe I should have said, Jake Paul won the fight. It was a split decision, 2-1 to Jake Paul. And afterwards, all over Twitter, fix, blah, 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 blah. But amazingly, he won the fight by fighting a clever fight. You know, Woodley's no mug, and Woodley wanted to win. But Jake Paul understood that, and his camp understood that, and his camp understood how Jake Paul had to win that fight. Don't go mad. Don't take the fight to Woodley. Let Woodley bring the fight to you. And he just kept him away with his jab. And Jake Paul's jab is pretty good. It's developing. You know, you could see it hurting Woodley. He spent a lot of time moving away from him. And then when he had the odd chance, bang, and then the jab, and then the jab. There was a couple of decent over-the-tops. I think Woodley caught Jake Paul once with one decent shot. And if the ropes weren't there, Jake Paul ends up on his ass. Not on his back, but on it would have hit him, it hurt him. The ropes kept him up, without a doubt. Would it have been a knockout? Would it have been a slip? Who knows? But even if that had given that 2-pointer, that round to Woodley, Jake Paul still wins the fight. Jake's shorts. I mean, it's almost like a symbol of the era. Jake Paul's shorts had a digital video message. It was like, it kept just saying Jake Paul. I think there was a longer message, but it's hard to see when he's running about. But moving text on the belt of his shorts. I mean, I doubt you'd get away with that in in like a proper fight with a proper accreditation and all that. But yeah, he had moving typography saying things on the sides of his shorts, which were incredible. Woodley shook Jake's hand at the presser recently to say that he would have "I love Jake Paul" tattooed on him if he lost. There was a tattoo artist, Baby Girl or something, some celebrity tattoo artist. That's a thing apparently. Whether he'll go through with that, I wouldn't. Even if I'd have shaken on that at the presser and I lost, I'd go, nah. I'm not a man of my word. I'm not having that done. I think Jake Paul would have done if he'd have lost, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about things like that. They don't mean anything to him. It would have meant more to him to not have had it done. But it was quite a spectacle. I've got to give the ring girls 10 out of 10. Absolutely stunning. Always important. You know, they're stripping. Bad choice of words. They're taking that element out of a lot of sports. Well done, the feminists, taking jobs away from women. Feminism, great. But all in all, I think Jake Paul played the right game. He was going to be hard pressed. He was going to be hard pressed to knock him out unless he got a lucky shot in. And the risk it would have taken him to put those big hammer shots, that big right, that would have put him in a position of risk. And if Woodley had caught him like he did when he fell on the ropes, it would have been too risky. He hasn't got... Look, it's like I done stand-up comedy for 10 years. Now, you can stand in your bedroom with an airbrush telling jokes for as long as you want. Once you've stood on a stage in front of an audience, it's completely different. You have to learn how to do it on the stage. And to stand in front of an audience, Woodley has done this. Woodley has done this countless times. He knows what it's like to be cheered. He knows what it's like to be booed. He knows what it's like to hear the changes in the crowd's perception of the fight. He knows all that, and he's learnt it, and he knows how to cope with it. Jake Paul didn't. He doesn't know about that. So he's learning. So he's got all that sort of thing on top of his ego and the whole spectacle, the whole occasion. So he played the fight well. He kept out of Woodley's way. He got enough of his strong jab in to score points. He was point scoring really, and I think he won 6 out of 7 rounds in my book. And then after the fight, it all went to his head a bit, and he started saying, "Don't bully kids. Hey kids, what? Hang on, you're not on Disney now." There's a fight audience watching this, and they would have been. The professional organisations and the fight game would, of course, they'd been watching this because this directly affects them. Is this the new fight game? Is this where it's going to go? A celebrity's going to start training? Jake Paul's only been fighting for what, a year and a half? And it was a massive pay-per-view. And so anyway, he started talking about, hey kids, don't bully. I used to be a bully, but I changed. And it was like, yeah, this isn't, but come on, he would have been full of adrenaline, full of the glory, full of his ego. But then Woodley didn't really do his best when he got hold of the microphone, and he reckoned he won the fight. And he wanted a rematch. He was calling for a rematch immediately. And that felt a little bit like being at school when you've got the shit kicked out of you and then you go, next time I'm going to beat you up. Yeah, but you've just had your opportunity and you didn't. Why are you going to do it next time? You just didn't. You had your chance. That seemed pathetic. And Woodley's maintained quite a good composure throughout all this build-up against quite difficult odds, really. This has been a media spectacle. There's been cameras all over him for a long time, certainly more than there would have been during his MMA career. Really. Not the actual fight, but the build-up. This would have been something quite different for him. And for him to say, I'll get you next time, Woodley, I'll get you next time, Jake Paul. It's a bit like, yeah, but you didn't. So, all in all, interesting. I would have liked to have seen a knockout either way, because as a man, I like seeing someone smash someone to the ground. It makes me go, whoa! And when you had to get up as early as I had to get up to watch it, you want to go, ah! As opposed to go, ooh, ooh, ooh. Did you hear one of the kids next door then mimic me, ridicule me? Oh, my massive ego's been deflated and my low self-esteem has come to the forefront. Interesting times. As Jake Paul got what it takes to step up and take on harder opponents, not yet, no. If I were him, I'd carry on with people around Woodley's kind of, older, slightly out of their prime, for a couple more fights anyway. He needs a lot more training. He seemed gassed as well, 5th round, guard so down. A better fighter would have taken advantage of that very, very quickly and with some quite negative results for Jake Paul. But I like it. I like what's happened here. This is interesting. This is kind of, boxing has taken. I used to be really into boxing, when it was the golden years of British boxing, Lloyd Hunnigan, Nigel Benn, Michael Watson, Chris Eubanks, all that lot. But then MMA has taken my interest away from boxing. Boxing, you can watch 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fights and get one good one. There's so much holding, and that's some fighters' technique. I'm going to hold and hold and hold, and when I get 1 or 2 opportunities, I'm going to land a bomb. And in MMA, that fight starts and it's action. And so this is for me, it's kind of brought it back to life. And like I previously said, all the professional boxing organisations will be looking at this because it's interesting. It's like Mayweather McGregor. It was a spectacle. It was peculiar. And we live in that world now. This is the world we inhabit. It's a social media world. Take care. Boom! I'll have you, Jake Paul. I won't. I don't want to fight anyone. Ever.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, ma ci s'è tuato un giro d'amore.